Well, we have some more Flames breaking news on this Saturday afternoon from Calgary as a trade has been leaked that was declined by the Calgary Flames that included a first round pick. As well, some additional info as it appears the New Jersey Devils are getting desperate for some help between the pipes. I'm your host, Ryan O'Donnell, and this is Flames Digest. If you haven't, please subscribe to our channel here on YouTube for all the latest Flames news, reports, and rumors. Let's get right into it now. And first, Flames decline trade leaked. And as we mentioned, a first-round pick may have been offered from a couple of teams. Let's read this from TSN's Pierre LeBrun. On a recent episode of Insider Trading, TSN's Pierre LeBrun confirmed that an unknown team offered the Flames a first for Tanev, but would have resulted in them helping said team out. Calgary did have a first-round pick on the table in one other trade offer, but it came with taking a player with term as part of the package, LeBrun said. That wasn't of interest to Calgary. There's been plenty of chatter online that the player with term may have been Cody Ceci, as the Edmonton Oilers were one of the teams in on Chris Tanev. Though that is purely speculation, others have discussed the possibility of it being Ryan Johansson, as the Colorado Avalanche had interest as well. While draft picks are valuable to a team, so is cap space, and Conroy has done a great job at moving plenty out this season. He's not expected to be done making moves just yet, as Noah Hanifin remains on the block and is likely to be moved out on or before the March 8th trade deadline. So some interesting tidbits there from TSN insider Pierre LeBrun, and I don't mind what Craig Conroy did. Is the return for Chris Tanev overwhelming? Maybe not, but I also don't think it's underwhelming. I think it's kind of a fair trade for both sides, and it's one of those trades where you're not going to really see the dividends of who won or lost this trade for a few years at least, because the prospect that the Flames got back, Artem Grushnikov, well, if the Flames would have had to take on a first-round pick, or would have got a first-round pick in return for Tanev, they would have had to take on a contract, according to this article, like a Cody Ceci, who has 1 year remaining on his contract, or Ryan Johansson. And to me, I don't think that really makes sense for the Flames, because now you open up cap space to potentially add something you'd like in the summer, whether it be a free agent or via trade. Whereas if you bring back a contract, the chances of that happening, it isn't as likely to happen if you do bring on someone else's contract. And when there was a few people that mentioned that they thought their return was a little underwhelming for Tanev, and I thought the reason Craig Conroy probably pulled the trigger on this trade right away is because, for one, Chris Tanev plays the game to another level. I don't think there's anyone in the league who plays the way Chris Tanev does. He blocks so many shots. He's second in the NHL currently in block shots, and he's an excellent defender, but he risks his body every night. And I give him so much credit for how he played as a member of the Calgary Flames down the stretch before he got traded, because it really, he didn't have to go and play the way he did before the trade rumors came up. He didn't have to play that way up until he was traded. But he's one of those guys that he's just a character, and he's such a great guy that the Flames are deeply going to miss in the dressing room, and he's one of those players that he's really going to help the Dallas Stars. And I think that's really the missing piece that Dallas needed on their back end. I wouldn't be surprised if they had some depth at forward, but now you can either shift Heiskanen over to the left side and put Tanev on the right side of that top pairing, or you can leave Harley and Heiskanen together, as Harley's had a coming out season, and put Tanev with Suter or maybe Esa Lindell. So they have a lot of options to Dallas. They got 8 solid NHL defensemen back there now, and the emergence up front of Logan Stankoven when he's came up and played games, I wouldn't be shocked if he's on their roster for the remainder of this season. Obviously, Evgeny Dadonov currently on LTIR. But Dallas, at the start of the year, they were my pick to win the Stanley Cup. The Flames could get an additional third-round pick if Dallas does make it to the Stanley Cup final, which, of course, in my opinion, they're going to. So hopefully for the Flames' sake, they do as well. Artem Grushnikov, the prospect in the return, I don't mind this instead of getting a first-round pick. You look at it this way. They took on Grushnikov and a second instead of getting a first and a player that you're retaining or that you're bringing back just to make the money work with Edmonton or Colorado. I like that they pick up Grushnikov. He's a younger defenseman who fits more with their plan in the future. And now in a draft, really, that after pick about 20 this year, it's anyone's guess who gets picked. We've seen numerous draft boards that suggest someone who is picked at 21 on someone's board might not be picked till the 5th round on someone else's. It's one of those years where it's not a very deep draft. And I always say that cautiously because you never know. You really never know until these kids are grown up or developed a couple years down the road to know if it's really a weak draft. But that is the initial prognosis of the draft, is that it is not a very deep draft this year. So I don't mind at all that Craig Conroy decided to shift to a second-round pick, because instead of a first and you get a prospect, you wouldn't have got a prospect in all likelihood with a first in those trade requests from Edmonton or Colorado as suggested by Pierre LeBrun. So I like that the Flames shifted to a prospect who more fits their long-term plan, and now you have options in your future on defense. I don't mean to steal words out of his mouth, but former NHL general manager was on Sportsnet 960 talking about, and Jason Bukala, by the way, was talking about how now the Flames have options. They got Etienne Morin, Jeremy Poirier, and Hunter Berskowitz as their offensive defensemen in their system, puck-moving offensive defensemen. Really, if one of those three pans out, that's a home run for the Flames. And you have options that now, for defensive defensemen, you got Jan Kuznetsov, Ilya Solovyov, and Artem Grushnikov. And Jason Bukala said he believes that Grushnikov is the best of those three between Kuznetsov, Solovyov, and Grushnikov to come up and be a everyday NHL defenseman down the road. Not a knock on Solovyov or Kuznetsov, but he believes himself Grushnikov has the potential to be a number 4 in the NHL, and at worst he thinks he could be a 5-6. So if that's the case, this is a home run trade for the Calgary Flames. Obviously, I don't want to say winner or loser. To me, it's just a fair deal right now. We won't see the real dividends for a few years on who really won this trade, but that is some promising words coming from a former GM himself and Jason Bukala. I think now it also opens up the door for Craig Conroy to shift to a Noah Hanifin trade and really make sure he gets the best return for Noah Hanifin, who is playing like a top pair defenseman this season. He's been outstanding for the Calgary Flames. It also, to me, it's a weird year as far as trades. There's not many great defensemen available, but there's a lot of right shot defensemen. And how many times do we hear GMs talk about, oh, we need a right shot defenseman? Well, if the Calgary Flames wait till the trade deadline to trade Chris Tanev, maybe a lot of those right shot defensemen are off the board already, and the bidding war for Tanev really there isn't much left to be had as far as bidders for Chris Tanev. And that's no knock on Chris Tanev. That's just the GMs want to make sure they get a right shot defenseman. We saw the Leafs have traded for Ilya Lyubushkin. Obviously, Dallas wanted to get in front of it. They get Chris Tanev, but you got Sean Walker on the board, Matt Dumba, Justin Schultz potentially. There's a lot of right shot defensemen this year. So I think Craig Conroy really wanted to get in front of it, make sure he gets the best return for Tanev before the market dries up. But in saying that, I think Craig Conroy did a good job on that trade. For the time being, at least maybe it looks a little underwhelming from a Flames fan perspective. I actually think he got a good return, and we shall see in future years. I think there's a pretty good chance that third round pick comes through as well. That would make this trade look even better for Craig Conroy. To the next storyline, well, the New Jersey Devils are getting desperate between the pipes, it looks like, as Daniel Amoya, who is, I'm not sure if I'm saying that name correctly, but he's a reporter that covers the New Jersey Devils. He said, or he quoted head coach Lindy Ruff after Friday's loss to the Anaheim Ducks and says, "I thought our goalies really struggled in this one," is what Lindy Ruff, the head coach of the Devils, said. And Vitek Vanacek has struggled this year. Came over last year in the offseason of 2022 from the Washington Capitals. He's been okay for Jersey, but he's not a 1A elite starting netminder. I'm not sure if the Devils team is deep enough that they can shelter a goalie to win them a Stanley Cup. We've seen excellent teams win with average goaltending, win a Stanley Cup, but I don't think the Devils are that elite of a team that could win a Stanley Cup with the goaltending they have right now. So we shall see how that develops, but how this mixes in with the Calgary Flames. Of course, the Devils were in rumors a few weeks back that they had a trade in place that might have acquired Jacob Markstrom had he waived his no-move clause. There's obviously rumors that he did waive his no-move clause, and then the trade fell through. Well, now we saw reports yesterday Markstrom was not pleased with how management of the Flames has kind of, I guess, developed this storyline around Markstrom and put this black cloud on if they're going to trade him or not. And Markstrom, the Flames have shut the door saying they're not going to trade him again, but I wonder, after those comments by Markstrom yesterday, if that rekindles the opportunity to maybe trade Jacob Markstrom. We shall see, but the Devils apparently are willing to take on all of Markstrom's salary if a trade is in place down the road leading up to the trade deadline. I'm still skeptical. I think that's more of a summer move. And the Devils, they're 5 points out of a playoff spot right now. They do have a game in hand on the Philadelphia Flyers. They're 6 back of the Tampa Bay Lightning with 2 games in hand on them. But I just think that's a lot of work to make themselves be back into the playoff mix, to really give up a lot of assets for Jacob Markstrom, who is having a remarkable season. And I don't think people around the league have really gave Jacob Markstrom the credit he maybe deserves for how good he's been. But at the same time, he's having a great year. The Devils may want to get in front of this and try and help them make the playoffs this year, but maybe they're too far out to get in. And then you wait till the summer, maybe Markstrom's not at the level he was this year, next year, as he's going to be 34 or 35 years old, I believe it is, next season. So it's one of those things where I don't really know what the proper move is. I'm happy I'm not the GM to make that decision on Markstrom. I think it's for the Flames' best interest to keep Markstrom, and the reason I say that is because the Flames have had so many guys want to go out the door lately. Zadorov, Lindholm, Hanifin, Toffoli, the list goes on. Now, obviously for different circumstances for all of them, but I just think it's something where you want to keep guys who want to be there. And the Flames GM Craig Conroy has made it noted he wants to keep guys that want to be there. He wants to get rid of guys that don't want to be there. He's done that so far. And Markstrom's a guy that wants to be in Calgary, or at least he did. I'm not sure he still does. I still think he probably does. I think those comments yesterday might have got blown proportion a little bit. But regardless, I'm keeping Jacob Markstrom if it's me. And I think he's a perfect guy to ease Dustin Wolf into a starting job next season. I think you can move out probably Dan Vladar in the summer, or even you move out Dan Vladar at the trade deadline this year. You split Markstrom 50-30. I'm not sold on just giving Dustin Wolf the starting job because of his career in junior hockey in the AHL. I think the Flames have a plan to get Dustin Wolf acquainted into the NHL. But I honestly don't think their plan would be just fire him to the Wolves and see what happened. No pun, so to speak, with that one. But I don't think that would be the right plan. And I feel like it's not a plan the Calgary Flames are probably interested in. They're smarter people than I am as far as a hockey perspective. So I would think that Dustin Wolf gets opportunity to play games down the stretch. But I think Markstrom remains a Flame until at least the summer. Thanks for tuning in to Flames Digest.